I got into 7 of them, and so I chose to go to Purdue because it's Purdue. I never believed I'd get in the first place. And after I got deferred, I didn't expect to get in. I had no hopes. I have this policy of keeping no expectations. If you don't keep any expectation, you can't get disappointed. Especially when it comes to universities, right? Because they're constantly refreshing your inbox to check if you've gotten any emails. 3 a.m. in the morning, I wake up randomly. The first thing I do is just check my Gmail. And I did that for a solid 2.5 months.
Hi Nakul, how are you?
Hi sir, I'm great. How are you?
All good. Thank you so much. It's been a while. Almost a year, right?
It has last August, so yeah, almost a year.
How has Purdue treated you so far?
Purdue's been a mixed bag in some senses, but overall it's been good for me.
Great. So for our audience, please go ahead, introduce yourself, let them know your background and where you currently are, what you're doing.
Right. So I'm Nakul Naik and I am attending Purdue University currently. I have just finished up my first year. And I'm currently majoring in computer science and minoring in mathematical economics, which is just math plus economics. So it's the slightly harder version of economics, you could say. And I did my schooling from Kothari National School, which, if you've never heard of, it probably makes sense because no one had applied to any university from there. I helped them make the Common App account, and I basically guided my counselor on how to submit things. So
Interesting.
That was fun. So I did the usual PCMB stream, and I applied to about 8 universities. I got into 7 of them, and so I chose to go to Purdue because it's Purdue.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How was your entire process of applying? How did you evolve into a candidate applying for studying international schools?
So initially I was doing IIT JEE, and I remember distinctly at the end of the first week of my classes for my coaching classes, I hated it. I was staring out of the window and I was not learning anything. I was not enjoying it. And so my next best option in the same field was going abroad because that thought had been bubbling in my mind from beforehand. And I said to tell it to my parents to discuss with them. And initially I was planning to go to the UK actually because I was big into Formula 1 at the time. And most of the team principals for all of the Formula 1 teams had done their education at like Sheffield and University of Exeter and like all the generic public UK schools. And so I realized that it's expensive and scholarships are kind of rare. So and everyone usually applies to the United States. So I ended up applying to the United States. As I said, applied to 8 universities, got into 7. I got deferred from Purdue actually, but because of your amazing LOC, I got in. I had settled for Stony Brook before I got to Purdue, but just when I thought my fate was sealed, I was actually shopping for shoes when I got my admit for Purdue, and coincidentally so did my brother, but that was a separate occasion. And so I shall shop for shoes more often.
That's a family woman now, right? Every time interesting. Now, the way we look at it, and in hindsight, don't you think it was always meant to be?
To be frank, I don't believe in fate or whatever. I always saw Purdue as this exclusive club where only, it was unheard of for anyone in my family to get into a pretty big university. My brother got into Carnegie Mellon, which is pretty big as well.
For his masters, right?
Yeah, for his masters. And it was unheard of. No one in my family or even my extended family had gone this far. And so it didn't feel real, to be honest, for the first approximately 45 seconds of me learning that I'd gotten in. And so I never believed that it was meant to be or anything. I never believed I'd get in the first place. And after I got deferred, I didn't expect to get in. I had no hopes. I have this policy of keeping no expectations. If you don't keep any expectation, you can't get disappointed. Especially when it comes to universities, right? Because you're constantly refreshing your inbox to check if you've gotten any emails. 3 a.m. in the morning, I wake up randomly. The first thing I do is just check my Gmail. And that I did that for a solid 2.5 months, and it was kind of nerve-wracking because if you'd refresh it, then the mail would pop up, and then you'd like scramble to log into your account in the dark and check your result. I got into UW Madison as well, but if you get into UW Madison and get into Purdue, it's kind of the same thing.
True.
Because there's barely any difference. The only thing is that UW Madison is more expensive. Might as well go to Purdue. And the winters there are way colder. So just go to Purdue.
Wise choice.
Yeah.
Now, I clearly remember you applied for Purdue when you're in hospital, on your hospital bed. My God, the ordeal of going over the finalizing of essays, right?
Yeah, that was fun. I got dengue. I got diagnosed with dengue October of 2022. The early action deadline is November 1st. And so pretty bad timing, but I did end up I was at some point my heart rate had dropped to below 30, and they're like rushing me to get echocardiograms done and whatnot. And so I did my brother helped out a lot. He helped me write the essays along with you as well. So I frankly think that I wrote some not very good essays, but you helped to kind of brighten it up. I guess that's probably why,
It's your profile had everything within itself. Yeah. All that it needed is a bit of polishing, I believe.
Yeah, that's what you need to sell yourself pretty well.
Would you like to tell our audience how did you evolve as a candidate?
So in terms of
applications, in terms of applying to these schools.
So I was initially very unaware of how everything works. Common App was just like a thing I'd heard of. I didn't know what it was for or what I was supposed to do. Once I made the account, and everything from there on was kind of me evolving to learn how the ins and outs of everything works. And the key thing that I learned and was kind of as like a core part of my evolution, as you would say, was that you really need to sell yourself well. You need to be able to present everything that you've done in a slightly exaggerated manner, but it should be exaggerated in the perfect amount. Any more, it sounds like you're
bluffing.
It sounds like you're bluffing. It sounds like you're disingenuous. Any lesser, and you're kind of downplaying yourself. And so it had to come with a lot of practice. It had to come with a lot of revisions to the essays that I'd written, all the suggestions that you gave. I kind of, by the end of the early action deadline, I kind of learned what I guess universities would like to see based upon everything that you would obviously add into my essays. So yeah, you need to sell yourself well, and you need to write essays which engage from like the first sentence. You can't lose the reader at any point, because the admissions council has thousands of applications that they need to go through over the season, and it has to be something different, but it has to be mainstream as well, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like it has to have elements of it has to have general, like this broad set of elements, but it also has to have like a touch of personality, your own personality. So you should, if it ain't broke, then don't fix it. But you can obviously add more of your stuff onto it, and so you're not necessarily fixing it, you're just making it more personal.
Rightly said, making it more personal.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your journey.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your journey to Purdue.
Yeah.
How typical Indian CBSE student figured his way out,
Mhm.
surviving in Purdue? What differences you've faced intellectually?
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
So the thing with CBSE is that it is quite intellectually challenging. If you look at it purely from just an education, like an intellectual perspective, CBSE is hardcore. It has everything that the college teaches you in the first year, it covers in high school, which is pretty insane because the high school students need to take AP classes to learn what we learn normally in the United States. So it wasn't intellectually challenging in the sense that I had to evolve to be smarter, to understand more things. It was just understanding them differently just because of how differently it's delivered in the United States. The collegiate system in the United States is very rigorous. It kind of keeps you on your toes all the time. You have daily assignments, you have quizzes, attendance quizzes, you have exams every 2 weeks. If you take 4 courses, you'll have 4 exams, and you'll have to give these 4 exams every 2 months, every 1.5 months. And as soon as you're done with the first one, because you have so many courses that you're taking, by the end of all of your exams, the next one's in like 3 weeks. And so you have very little break. You need to be proactive in order to keep up with your degree.
Let's double down on the concept of proactive.
Yeah.
So, for the students who are in the high school right now, say in their 9th grades to their in 12th grade, what exactly would you define to be proactive as?
So I guess you should be aware of what you need to do because of how, as I said, rigorous it is. It has a bunch of things that you do at the same time. If you're taking upwards of 4 courses, especially if you're planning to graduate early, you're taking 4 courses, 5 courses. In fact, I have friends who've taken, I think, 6 in one semester.
Wow.
They're taking 21. So our limit is 18. They're taking 21 credits.
18 credits.
18 credits, and they're taking 21 credits, which is kind of insane to me. I don't see them that often.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty rigorous. If you have those many courses, all of them will have different assignments. Maybe they'll have different types of assignments, like extra credit assignments and regular assignments, due in the same week. And you need to know what is due when, otherwise you'll miss an assignment. And the thing is that assignments form a pretty big part of your percentage, your GPA. They're like these small building blocks which eventually form your grade. A big percentage of your grade is assignment. So if you keep up with your assignments, study for your exams, you'll get it's pretty basic formula for getting a good grade. So just be aware of what you're doing and try to complete it much before the deadline. I heard this a lot before I went in the orientation seminars, that you need to be proactive, that you should be finishing things before the deadline. I didn't take it that seriously. And you can get away with it in your first semester because courses are maybe easy and you're maybe taking lesser credits to adapt to the environment. But second semester is way more different than your first, especially if you're on the East Coast. The winters are harsh, sub-zero temperatures, winds. They don't cancel classes if you're, especially Purdue, they don't cancel classes. No matter what, like there's a hailstorm happening, they won't cancel classes. And so you'll have to trudge to your 8:30 a.m. class decked out in full winter gear that you had to wear for like 15 minutes. It took you 15 minutes to wear it. And so, yeah, my point is that you can't get away with it after your first semester. You can be relaxed in your first semester just because everything's new, and the university won't challenge you that much as well because they kind of know it's new. So won't be that challenging. Second semester onwards, things turn up significantly, and it's kind of a hard lesson to learn. I personally had a hard lesson to learn, and I hope to implement some new things from the next semester. I'll have to see.
Interesting. I just picked up a point. You mentioned graduating early.
Yeah.
Specifically for the audience, parents say, Would you define or would you elaborate on that? What do you mean by graduating early?
Right. So the American collegiate system has the system of credits. Right. You need to complete a certain number of credits by the end of your degree in order to graduate. Typically, 4 years is the bachelor's length of your degree, and so 4 years for Purdue at least we have to take a total of 120 credits. Over 4 years, that's 30 credits per year, 15 credits per semester. So if you just take 15 credits per semester, you'll graduate in 4 years. But you have the choice to take more, right? You can take up to 18. So if you keep taking 18 every semester,
up to 18 in the same fields, there is a possibility of taking more number of credits also.
Yeah. So for us, after 12 credits, it's the same charge per credit. So you can take any amount after 12. So 18 credits. If you take three extra credits every semester, you basically by the end of your second year, you'll have done 12 extra credits, which is nearly a semester. Third year, first semester, you'll have done a whole semester's worth of courses over your entire 3 years. So you can graduate early if you take more than the suggested number of credits. That's graduating earlier than 4 years.
Do you think is that a norm to graduate early?
It's not the norm, but it's also something that I personally wouldn't recommend because you're not going there just for getting educated. It's a whole experience. The American college experience. It's something that you should experience for a longer time, as much as you can, before stepping out into the real world. Because college is kind of like this buffer between you being under your parents' wings, and then you have some independence in college, but not all of it because you're again living off of your parents, right? And so, it's this buffer that you need to just soak in fully before being thrust into the real world and having all these responsibilities. Just enjoy it for as long as you can. And college has a lot to teach you. So the more time that you spend getting taught, the better it is for you. I mean, sure, you'll save a lot of money by graduating early because you don't have to pay that semester's worth of tuition and not tuition, living costs basically, because you've paid the tuition already, but living costs and just your overall costs. So you save money, but that you kind of need to figure out what the trade-off is for you. Do you value the lessons that you might learn over that last semester more than the money that you're paying to stay there? For some people, it might just be that they want to graduate early and get to
start making money
earlier. Some people just want to stay in college for longer.
I love the way you elaborated the concept of college. That's where you need to soak in as much learnings as possible.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's a very, very interesting, unique perspective. Going forward, how would you guide a high schooler specifically in terms of the social and cultural differences? You first of all talk about your cultural differences which you encountered.
Right. So personally, I have lived in the States before. I've lived in Costa Rica and I've spent time in a bunch of European countries. So the so-called culture shock that people are supposed to experience as soon as they step on American soil, I did not necessarily feel it to the full extent. As soon as I got there, everything was new, obviously, but you adapt to it pretty quickly. In terms of culture shocks, though, it would probably just be behaviorally for me. In India, you develop this sense of comfort, right, in knowing that this is how people interact, and so according to your perspective, this is just how people interact. But then you get to see this whole other culture where they're just more direct. They have way more emphasis on individualism. So America is kind of known for being an individualistic country. So it's a lot of there's a higher sense of self in that you just have more liberty to do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about societal opinions or they don't care what others think of them, basically. They're more direct, they're more individualistic, they're very punctual. I mean, people are punctual here as well, but the consequences of not being punctual are way more harsh. Like you need to tell them beforehand that you're being late. Otherwise, it's kind of frowned upon. And you often don't know that you're being late before you're actually late, right? So it's kind of so you need to be punctual. But besides that, you should get used to holding the door open for like 5 other people who are walking behind you. You need to get used to saying thank you and sorry a lot. You need to be polite and kind, because that's just how everyone is over there. Of course, you'll experience some coldness from some people, but on the whole, they're a very polite group of people. So you'll hear thank you and sorry a lot, and you'll start saying it as well. So yeah, just behaviorally, and also I guess just some very dumb things. They yield to you. The cars over there, they yield to you while you're crossing, so you don't need to actually dart across the road and put your hand out like this. They will stop for you, which is something I was in awe of, to be honest. Like, are you actually waiting for me? Should I go? And then I go, and they actually wait for me, and it's kind of surprising for the first couple of times that you do it. Then you get used to it. Then you expect them to do it, and when they don't do it, you kind of feel pissed off. So it's kind of this huge transition where you're actually given importance. But yeah, that's about it.
Interesting. Now, when we spoke about this cultural difference, let's talk about some challenges which you have faced at Purdue, specifically living home. What challenges have you faced?
So there's this phenomenon of homesickness, which everyone will face, and it tends to surface exactly when you're in your most stressful situation, because your only only sense of comfort was home, right? When you were at home, no matter what you're going through, at the end of the day, you slept in your own bed, you met your parents, you had your food cooked for you. But that's not the case when you go to college. At college, everything is dependent on you. The responsibilities for your own education, for your own upkeep are on you. And when that kind of gets overwhelming, you start wishing that you could just go back to the same sense of comfort that you had. And it hits a couple of weeks into your semester. After your orientations are over, so about a week of orientations before your semester starts, right? And they make you attend seminars on how stuff at the university actually works and what you need to do in order to keep up with the academics. So they have all of these seminars that they make you attend before college actually starts. That week is great. You make a lot of friends, you have a lot of fun. You discover that having a social life is actually possible if you're an introvert, like who I was. And so yeah, you develop a sense of I guess Stockholm syndrome, where it's this whole foreign environment, but you kind of start liking it because you have all of these other people who are going through the same things as you. But 2 weeks in, everyone kind of starts getting busy with their own schedule, and you don't see them as often. You don't have fun as often because you need to study. So maybe only the weekends, maybe not even that. And so that homesickness hits. Like I had my roommate was sobbing. I remember at the end of the second week, he just missed home so much because he wanted to speed run college. He wanted to get it over with as quickly as possible. So he was trying to do everything at once. He was trying to attend a career seminar 3 weeks into college, which was for like the seniors and the juniors. He was trying to find research opportunities, trying to keep up with all of his assignments. And so he kind of got overwhelmed. And I had to obviously comfort him. And I kind of felt some sort of, I guess, I could relate to him because I was starting to feel the same sense of homesickness as him. So yeah, the most difficult challenge that you'll have to deal with personally will probably be homesickness. Other than that, if you're a vegetarian, you will probably hate dining court food. It's bad. It's bad. There'll hardly be one vegetarian station which will serve the most bland beans and rice. It won't exactly be to your taste. So you'll miss food. So try to allocate a budget to that one Indian restaurant who makes some similar food to what you found back home. And so yeah, homesickness and just being overwhelmed with academics, I guess.
Interesting. I'm actually trying to cope up with all the difficulties students face there.
Yeah.
Okay, how did you cope up with that?
Friends. You need friends. That's like the bottom line that I want to stress on, is that you need friends. Otherwise, you're not going to have fun at college. And as I mentioned earlier, you need to be proactive, right? We talked about that in an intellectual context, but like an academic context, but you need to be proactive socially as well, because unless you're some great charismatic person who lights up the room as soon as they walk in, and a lot of us aren't, you aren't going to be just being able to maintain a social life on autopilot where people are contacting you to come to lunch or to hang out. You need to take those steps yourself in order to maintain a social life. You need to be proactive in that sense as well. So you need friends. If you have friends, whatever you're going through, it'll probably be easier. It definitely won't go away because they can't solve your problems. At the end of the day, they're your problems. But they definitely do make it easier. And you have like a metaphorical shoulder to cry on. You have people who you can, it's a distraction. If you are like borderline failing a course and you get invited to movie night, for those 2 hours you kind of forget that you're failing that course, and it's like this break from all the chaos that is going on in your academic life. And when you get back to your room, you kind of feel better and you feel a little bit more motivated to pick up the pieces and go on with your degree. And so you need friends. Try to make friends. Try to be proactive. That's the bottom line.
Now, apart from academics, how did you find the work culture, say on-campus jobs?
So I had a job I had a very manual labor job. It was in the dining courts. I restocked food. I serviced the dining courts after they were closed. Wasn't the most cushy job, dare I say, but it was good because at least for my job, you kind of end up bonding over your adversity. You're stuck for 4 hours, 5 hours in the same sweaty environment. There's no air conditioning. Only one of the stations had air conditioning, and everyone always hoped that they'd get that station. So I tried to get as early as possible to the dining court in order to, just put their name in line for that station. I think it was the grill station. Everywhere else, no air conditioning, and especially on weekends, on weekend shifts in the dining courts, there would be a big rush. Like the lines would extend all the way up to the entrance, and we'd be replacing trays every 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and that was hot food. So you need to carry these gloves in order to not burn yourself. It was just a lot of manual labor. You needed good forearm strength. You need to make sure your wrists were strong. But yeah, then there's that job where I guess I had fun, but I wish that was something that did not involve so much effort.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you here. How did you feel specifically coming from the Indian environment where doing these kind of jobs is considered like it's a dogma?
It is a dogma in that it is frowned upon. In that my parents were concerned that I should probably be working more high level job which involved more intellect than manual labor. It is kind of frowned upon. But there is absolutely nothing wrong in it because it's the culture in the States is
dignity of labor.
Yeah. If you doesn't matter what there's this movie called Good Will Hunting, if you've seen it, and in that the main character is like this super genius guy who can just think math equations out of thin air, solve them out of thin air, and he's like, it doesn't matter if I don't want to make use of my intellect. If I'm painting houses or if I'm washing cars, I made the person who owns that car his day better, right? So I'm making someone's life better no matter what I do. But like coming back to the topic, there is no job which is good or bad. It's completely dependent on what your qualifications are and what you like to do. There are 16-year-olds working at Subway as an internship during the summer, and that's completely normalized in the States. But in India, we see if you're working at Subway, then it's probably a lower level job, and people frown upon it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with working jobs like that. At the end of the day, you're earning money, you're serving people. It's good. It's just that it's a lot of effort. Only if you're willing to put it in, you should take it. Don't if you're working at a dining court or something, don't expect for it to be easy. If you want a desk job, you should apply to desk jobs, and you should apply to a lot of them because they're super competitive.
Interesting.
They pay lesser. There's a campus-wide minimum wage. The desk jobs paid below it somehow. I don't know how it didn't apply to that. But yeah, they paid $9 an hour. You had to sit there. You had to sort through mail. You had to do a bunch of regular desk job stuff like shredding paper at the end of the day and whatnot. So it's lesser pay, but at the end of the day, you're also working lesser. So that's fair enough. But people tend to prefer the latter type of jobs because it's A, lesser effort, and B, you can just, if you're not doing anything, in our campus at least, they allow you to bring a laptop and work on your assignments. So that's something that people found advantageous. At the same time, it's not as engaging. You're sitting there for half the time and you kind of end up getting bored.
The best part of being on this side of the table, Nakul, I can sense the evolution. The way you have matured into this smart, caring human being, and I'm so happy to be on this side.
A year's worth of college does things.
Interesting. Now that we spoke about being on this side of the table, how would you like to guide parents, the parents in this audience, specifically parents of a high schooler? What would you A, expect from them, or B, how would you see parents to behave, or rather evolve into a better version so as they could accommodate their kid getting into colleges abroad?
Right. So, one thing that happens to parents once their children leave for college, but it depends how many children you have. So, if you have like your sole child is going to college, you experience a very intense, as what they call it, as the emptiness syndrome, or the void, as you say. And so, it really depends how many children you have, because for me personally, both my brother and my brother's at Carnegie Mellon. He ended up going at the same time as I was going, and my parents also switched countries, so everything was new for them, and that sense of emptiness was probably felt a little bit stronger for them. But I was in my first semester, and I was all geared up to take on college, and I was all enthusiastic about making new friends and gaining that little extra bit of independence of not living under your parents' wings. And so I got to my head. I didn't call my parents as much as I should have. I didn't talk to them as much as I should have. I probably should have done that more. But that's what I should have been doing. On the other side, the parents should probably consider that, it's your child starting a whole new life in a different country. They're adapting to this whole new environment, and most of the times they end up finding solace in friends who are going through the same thing. That's at least what I did. I'm pretty sure everyone else tends to do that as well. And that's how they that companionship becomes a more integral part of their life, because they're right there, your friends. But the parents are in a different country. It's just logistically more difficult to stay in contact. But that's something that parents should keep in mind, that they're starting a whole new life. But on the flip side, as I said, I didn't call them as much as I should have. And I realized that in my second semester, after the first semester had passed by, I had 3 weeks where I did a lot of thinking about how the previous semester had gone. And one of the things which stood out to me was that I did not talk to my parents as much as I should have. It was like I had friends who called their parents every single day, and when I saw that, I didn't really understand why they did that, because my entire all my social needs were fulfilled by my friends. Why should I talk to my parents? And that was very selfish of me. Now that I realize it, because parents are parents. No matter how much independence you gain, no matter how much your friends compensate for your social life, your parents are equally, if not more important. You definitely should call them every day. If you don't get the time, make sure that you explain to them why you're not calling them, and make sure that you talk to them more tomorrow to compensate for the fact you did today. Never ever, forget that they exist.
I am so much loving this whole retrospection that's happening in this conversation.
Yeah, no. So the thing is, I was in Pittsburgh for 21 days, where my brother lives. Carney was in Pittsburgh, right? So I went there for my winter vacation, and Pittsburgh is a very lonely city. I had nothing to do. Time was blurring. I was in my head a lot, and I kind of realized a lot of the mistakes I'd done. I did a lot of things right. I did a lot of things wrong. One of which was this. So yeah, you kind of, as you age, once you get past that rebellious teenager phase, as they say, as you go 18, 19, 20, you kind of become, you kind of start seeing your parents more as your friends rather than, someone who is controlling of your life, because in college, they can't really do much, right? And that's where you start kind of seeing them as your friends. And I don't mean to say that parents are controlling or anything. I just mean to say that once you start gaining a bit of your own independence, you start kind of treating them in a more informal way, so to say.
One, probably, if I want to sum up this answer, I would say 2 words: giving space, and trust.
Giving space, trust, and just being considerate, and also aware that they are being considerate, so should you. Like, if your parents don't call you for 2 or 3 days because they understand that you are probably busy with your academics and your friends, they're not going to call you because they're like 30 years older than you. They're mature. They understand that. But it takes some time for you to get the maturity that they're being considerate. You should probably reciprocate that consideration and call them. Just because they don't doesn't mean that you should.
Let's double down on the same advice to high schoolers who will be getting into these abroad universities, say today or in coming years. So, what would you advise them?
In terms of profile building? Or
no, the students who are getting in. Say with respect to how we are supposed to cope up with the entire aspect. We'll talk about, say, profile building also in a later stage.
Okay. So if you're in your 9th and 10th grade and you're set on going abroad, know that it's going to be a lot of change. That's obvious, but you never truly grasp how much change there is until you actually feel it. And you don't even feel it 2 weeks, 3 weeks into college. You feel it a solid month into college when it actually starts getting difficult, because the first week is just orientations. The first couple of weeks of college is really easy because professors are just reading out the syllabus to you. It's basic stuff. Then when you actually need to, there are 5 courses, you need to do assignments for all 5 of them, and you're behind on all of them. You kind of realize that this is college. Like, this is how my academics are going to be from now on. It's not as easy as I thought it was. That's at least what I experienced, because I kind of fell into that rhythm of being, just lapse. It was a lapse of effort in the first couple of weeks. I just thought that, this is just how it's going to be. No, once it starts getting difficult, it kicks in. It's going to be a lot of change. When I was on the flight, just before it was about to take off, I realized I'm going to be here for the next 4 years. That's a lot of time. 4 years ago, 2023, I was in 9th grade, where a lot of the people who are probably listening to this are now. I was in 9th grade. I could not fathom that I would be doing this. That was a long time ago now that I think of it, but those 4 years are going to pass by really quickly. No, if you're thinking that it's a lot, it's really not. I didn't understand that the first 2 semesters are done. That they just pass by quickly. I cannot actually believe that they went by that fast. It's actually insane. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of change. You're going to have to come to terms with a lot of things. You should not let the independence get to your head. If you're in 9th and 10th grade, you probably are striving for that independence. That's what teenagers tend to do, right? You just want to be independent. You lock the door to your room. you start listening to Nirvana, maybe, I don't know. But
one way to put that.
yeah. My point is that once you actually get that independence, don't let it get to your head. You often can misuse that independence, go overboard, and that can lead to a lot of issues. Not to say that you shouldn't experiment. Don't be afraid to find out, but if you find out the wrong things, stay away from it. Don't do drugs. Don't drink.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the problem with that is that it's kind of the States. There's a culture. It's not exactly a culture, but there's a lot of openness in that sense. Like you can find medicines that are probably prescription medicines here just over the counter. And that kind of incentivizes you to try out the wrong things, and you should stay away from those temptations. That's just something I observed because we have this market in front of my door where there's all kinds of things, but the medicine section had some stuff which I totally would need a prescription to get it, and I saw that and I was just surprised that I can just check this out for $279 and do whatever I want with this, which was a lot of freedom that I just didn't want to accept. Like I do not want to go down this avenue, and I don't think it's a good idea to either. So just that's a very specific example of letting the independence get to your head. But yeah, just don't take it for granted. Definitely don't go overboard.
It's a very unique aspect of US education, specifically undergrad education, which you covered right now.
Yeah.
Touched upon, and I would be over the period of time, we would heavily be delving into this idea and this aspect of not exploiting the independence which you end up getting.
Yeah.
If we have to move on this topic, specifically for our audience who are, say, just started the high school, in their 9th grade, 10th grade, how exactly would you advise them to work on profile building so that they can aim to get into, say, for the matter of universities, to the likes of Purdue and above that? So what exactly should they be looking at?
So I guess if you have two things that you're good at, say I was good at piano, and I was good at writing. I wrote for a couple of sports magazines. I wrote for one sports magazine, but I had a blog as well. So if you're good at two things, just make sure you go to the maximum with those two things. Don't try out 5 different things like a year before your applications are due, because if you're going to try out new things, you're not going to get too far with it, because everything has a learning curve, especially things which might matter on an application. Those things definitely need a learning curve. You need to be doing those things way beforehand. If you're in your 8th grade, 9th grade, definitely try to learn something new that could not only for applications. Like it has to be something that you're passionate about. I really loved writing, and so once I actually realized I was decent at it, I tried to put it to use. I applied to a bunch of magazines and I started my own blog. So my point would be that don't try to experiment too much because you don't have the time. Don't try to start something new a little too late, because I guess colleges and kind of understand that
they're not stupid.
Yeah, if you're doing this one thing 6 months before the early action deadline, then you're probably doing it just for the college applications, not because you're actually wanting to do it. But obviously, there's exceptions to that. It's not like a blanket statement. So yeah, just focus on what you're good at. If you're not good at anything, and I kind of believed in 8th and 9th grade that I really didn't have that many hobbies. I really didn't have anything I was particularly good at. I ended up picking it up later on. You never know what you're good at. If you're starting early on, try it out. Maybe pick up the piano. You probably have a talent for it. You end up going far by the time you're in your 11th or 12th grade. When you have to apply, you might achieve a lot. So yeah, just just I guess experiment if you have the time. If you don't, just focus what you're good at.
I would like to just add one thing. When you're trying to experiment, double down on it. If you're good at something, just make sure that you are exploiting that opportunity as much as possible.
Exactly.
That would really add value to the profile.
Exactly.
Fair.
And also in terms of the other side of it, which is essay writing. Essays are a very succinct way to find out what the student actually. It's actually quite smart of colleges to make you write essays, because you kind of end up evolving to understand what colleges actually want. I wrote terrible essays, and you probably were privy to it, given how many edits we had to go through. But I remember for my Common App essay, we spent a solid 2 months on that. You won't initially understand whether your essay is good or bad, especially a Common App essay. You'll end up evolving. I realized that you need to sell yourself really well. You need to exaggerate to the perfect amount. That perfect amount you end up understanding again later into applications. You will end up understanding what colleges want. And for my UW Madison essay, which I ended up getting into the college, I wrote that way better than my Texas A&M essay, which was my first ever application. So yeah, you end up learning a lot along the way. If you're bad at it initially, doesn't mean that you will be bad at it maybe like towards the end of your applications. So yeah, you'll end up learning a lot.
I am just enjoying the aspect that you mentioned about the evolution right from the first essay which you wrote till your last application essay, and I've been lucky enough to be part of that journey.
It's kind of nostalgic.
Yeah, true that.
I remember that I think it was a day before the Texas A&M deadline was due, and we were sitting at 12 a.m. and we were trying to submit the thing.
Yes.
And for some reason, the letter of recommendation did not go through. So we called the counselor specifically to the school on a Sunday and made her submit the letter of recommendation. Yeah. That was a huge weight off my chest. I ended up getting into Texas A&M as well, so that was kind of you put a lot of effort into those essays. I was not good at writing essays at that point.
You had every single thing. All that it needed is probably pointing it to the right thing,
polishing it, pointing me to the right direction. But yeah, that was a lot of your help.
As I said, I'm lucky to be part of that journey. The way I look at it, you were destined to be there, and I'm enjoying the fact that I'm on this side of the table and discussing all the same things, and seeing this evolution is so awesome. Yeah. Now that we are at this stage of the podcast, I would like to understand, what are your future goals? What have you thought about for the career options?
So I am not sure. I've not thought about what I want to do, but I definitely know what I don't want to do.
Very good.
So I initially wanted to get into quantitative research. So basically Wall Street, and I realized I was too ambitious. But I'm minoring in econometrics, which is math plus economics, as I said earlier, and that tends to go to venture capital firms, hedge funds. They tend to hire people with an economics background. But I don't even know if I'm interested in that. You end up realizing a lot of what you like and what you don't like as you actually go through the process of taking those courses and delving into that field. On the periphery and on the surface, it all seems shiny, like you're earning this much amount of money every single year. This is your signing bonus. It's a lot of money. It's going to be nice. But the flip side of that is that it involves a lot of math, a lot of economics, and a lot of coding. The coding aspect is fine. It's just that I not particularly fond of maths, and that's kind of funny given that I'm doing a computer science degree, but they each to their own. And as for economics, I'm not sure. I don't have an opinion in economics. I'm not sure about what I truly want to do right now. I hopefully will figure it out by the end of the second year, because Purdue has a system where you have to choose your concentration in the second semester of your second year. You need to declare it beforehand, but you need to start taking courses in your second semester of the second year. So I guess once I try to experiment and try out a niche, if I don't like it, I have enough time to switch it. Hopefully I will figure out what I want to do. I don't want to end up going into the job search clueless. So yeah, I hope to figure out, but I'm unsure right now. That's completely fine if
it is
you're unsure.
totally fine. You shall. And the way I believe that we were also not aware when we were applying to the universities whether is Purdue the one which we really wanted to get into.
Right.
So we figured that out, right?
Yeah.
So you shall for sure figure that out. It's just a matter of time. The fun fact is now this video, this podcast will be out there. We both will be laughing a lot when we look at this conversation happening again. How sure we were at this point of time.
Yep.
That's awesome. Nakul, I'm honored to be on this side.
So am I.
To see you evolve, to see you mature into this awesome human being, for that matter, who is also kind of a technocrat, evolving technocrat, and yeah, in a way, it's so good. It's so good to host you for our first podcast. A long way to go, and we would really hope to see you again. To begin with, to end this conversation, we at Anantt wish you all the best. I know that wherever you'll go, you'll shine like anything. I know the potential you have, and the whole evolution that has happened over the period of time. I've been previewed that, and I'm really happy and hopeful. We are rooting for you, dear. So all the best wishes. Looking forward to see you on this podcast soon again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. You've been awesome from the beginning.
All the best wishes, dear. All the best. Dear.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.